Breaking news! Something happened today at Ravens training camp that could change everything. A moment that was supposed to be just another routine rep turned into a nightmare that has fans, coaches, and the front office on edge. A key player, one of the most exciting talents on this roster, went down in a way that no one saw coming. And just hours before that, there were reports of a massive move in the works that could have secured his future with the team. Now, everything's in question. But before we move on, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," to show your love and support for the flock. Let's get into the full story. Let's get straight into it. According to multiple reports, including from insider Jonah Schaefer, Isaiah likely suffered the injury during the last rep of one-on-one drills, a brutal way to end practice. He was carted off, not because the injury was necessarily catastrophic, but because the facility was far enough away that the team didn't want to risk him making it worse by walking. Still, that image of him being carted off the field was enough to send a shockwave through the Ravens fan base and across the NFL community. To put this into perspective, Isaiah likely was expected by many fans, analysts, and insiders alike to explode in 2025. After a 2024 season that saw him show serious flashes of brilliance, especially in that Week 1 performance against Kansas City where he racked up over 100 yards on 9 catches with a touchdown, the momentum was building. Add to that a strong playoff showing and the buzz around training camp, and it felt like this was going to be the season for him. And it's not just the injury that makes this story a gut punch. Just hours before he went down, Twitter, or X, if you prefer, was buzzing with reports that the Ravens were closing in on a new contract extension for Likely. The numbers weren't official yet, but multiple respected voices like Ricky Scoops, Cole Jackson, and Spencer Schultz were all hearing the same thing. Isaiah Likely was about to get paid. The deal was reportedly going to exceed the one Jake Ferguson just signed with Dallas, which made Ferguson the 7th highest paid tight end in the league. That likely would have put Isaiah in the top 6. A massive statement of faith from the organization. Then, boom, injury, silence, uncertainty. To his credit, John Harbaugh spoke soon after and tried to calm the nerves. He confirmed that Likely had rolled his ankle, that he would undergo an MRI the following day, and that the team believed he'd only be out a few weeks. That's what fans desperately wanted to hear. But here's where the uncertainty creeps back in. If it's just a rolled ankle, why the MRI? Why the cart? Why the vague timeline of a few weeks? These are the questions swirling in everyone's mind right now. And until that MRI confirms something more definitive, everything is still up in the air. Injuries are part of the game, but the timing here couldn't be worse. Not only for Isaiah as he appeared to be on the verge of securing a life-changing contract, but for the Ravens offense, which was set to feature heavy doses of both Likely and Mark Andrews in Todd Monken's versatile system. Having the ability to run 12 personnel with 2 dynamic tight ends opens up the playbook in ways few teams can match. Likely isn't just a tight end, he's a weapon, a matchup nightmare who can line up anywhere on the field. And now, depending on the results of that MRI, Baltimore may have to shift some things around. Do they lean more on Andrews if Likely misses time? Does this affect whether Andrews, who's also in a contract year, ends up getting an extension first? Does Likely's injury delay or derail his own contract talks? There are so many moving pieces. The silver lining here is that the injury happened in late July. If the initial timeline from Harbaugh is accurate, 2 to 3 weeks, he could still be back in time for Week 1. Even if it's a little longer, let's say 4 to 6 weeks, he might still return without missing meaningful regular season action. That would be huge for both him and the team. But there's also the reality that soft tissue and ankle injuries can linger if not managed correctly. The Ravens will need to be extremely careful not to rush him back too soon. Fans will remember how excited they were just earlier this year at the thought of this offense featuring Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, and the two-headed monster at tight end with Andrews and Likely. That dream might still be intact, but it's hanging in the balance right now. And so is Isaiah Likely's immediate future. He's proven he belongs. He's proven he's ready to break out. He's proven he's worth investing in. Now, we wait. The MRI will tell us everything, and the fallout, whatever it is, will impact not just one player's season, but potentially the whole offensive rhythm the Ravens have been building. Or will this just be a temporary setback, something he bounces back from stronger, more motivated, and more explosive than ever? Let's break this down further, because this isn't just about a rolled ankle, it's about timing, opportunity, and the dominoes that could start falling depending on the severity of the situation. If Isaiah Likely misses extended time, Who steps up in his place? The Ravens built this offense expecting to unleash both Likely and Andrews on opposing defenses. Without Likely, that forces Todd Monken to rethink some of his most dynamic formations. You lose a chess piece, someone who can line up in line, in the slot, or even split out wide, and that takes away a big layer of unpredictability. Charlie Kolar is the next man up at tight end, and while he's shown potential, he's not the same kind of mismatch creator. You can't just plug someone into Likely's role and expect the same production. The offense may have to lean even more on wide receivers like Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and the newly acquired Devontae Walker to pick up the slack. That's not necessarily a bad thing. There's plenty of talent there, but it does change the game plan. And let's not ignore the psychological aspect of this moment. Injuries like this aren't just physical. They mess with a player's head, especially when it happens right as they're on the cusp of a career-defining moment. Isaiah Likely was about to cash in, about to prove that all the patience, all the work, all the waiting behind Mark Andrews was worth it. Instead, he's now waiting for MRI results, hoping that a rolled ankle doesn't turn into something more complicated. The Ravens front office also finds itself in a tricky position. Do they move forward with an extension offer without knowing the full extent of his injury? Or do they hit pause, risking alienating a young star who was this close to signing? It's these kinds of moments that test not just players, but organizations. And the Ravens have a history of supporting their guys through injury. If they believe in Isaiah Likely, and based on everything we've heard, they do, then there's a chance they still go through with a deal if the injury is as minor as Harbaugh suggests. That would send a message to the entire locker room that this organization takes care of its own. And don't underestimate the fan base here either. Ravens fans love Isaiah Likely. He plays hard, he's exciting to watch, and he brings a swagger to the offense that you just can't coach. Social media lit up the moment the news broke, not just with concern, but with support. Fans are rallying behind him, flooding the comments with number 80s and words of encouragement. That matters. It creates an atmosphere where a player knows he's valued, even when he's not on the field. As for Likely himself, he's been through adversity before. Coming out of Coastal Carolina, he wasn't a top pick, wasn't handed anything. He earned every rep, every target, every yard he's gotten in the NFL. He knows how to fight back. If this turns out to be just a minor injury, something he can rest, ice, and rehab over a few weeks, then you better believe he'll be ready to explode once again. And if the deal goes through, he'll be playing with even more purpose. But here's the thing, what if it's not minor? What if it's more than a sprain? That's the scenario nobody wants to consider, but it's one the Ravens have to prepare for. If Likely ends up missing significant time, they'll need to make decisions quickly. Do they bring in a veteran tight end for depth? Do they pivot their offensive identity until he's back? How do they balance protecting Likely's future with the pressure of competing for a Super Bowl now? All of this hinges on that MRI. One scan, one report, that's all it will take to shape the next several weeks or months for both Isaiah Likely and the Ravens. So Ravens fans, it's your turn. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this injury will delay Isaiah Likely's breakout, or do you see him bouncing back in time to make a major impact this season? And don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and stay tuned for our next breakdown. We'll have it all right here for you, updates, analysis, and everything you need to know about the Baltimore Ravens. Click the video on the screen to keep riding with us. See you next time.